For years, my job title was creative, capital C, but I didn't really know how to truly be creative. There I was working in a respectable career that I was good at and which paid the bills, but I always had a little itchy sense that I should be doing something else. I just didn't know what. I was a professional creative person, but I would never have called myself an artist. I spent a long time working at one of the only jobs that I know of that's designated as creative. I worked in the creative department. My title was Executive Creative Director. And collectively, my colleagues and I were known as creatives. So what did that actually mean? Well, for many of my peers, it meant that we wrote TV commercials and we designed magazine ads and we got assignments and we fulfilled them. And we were creative within that box, and we pretty much stayed there. Now, I'd been climbing a corporate ladder for 30 years, and each rung had the word creative on it, but it was a narrow ladder with very defined terms. And one day, I was lucky enough to meet a legendary graphic designer, and he introduced me to several of his peers, all of them real legends. And I was amazed to discover that their creativity stretched so much further than anybody in my industry ever considered. They might start with an assignment to design a brochure or a website or something. But before long, they were taking on product design, store design, street signage, uniforms, films, furniture, video games, medical devices, educational programs, all kinds of things. And they weren't just designing how those things looked. They were thinking about how people use those products and how they live and how they work and how their days could be improved by a better tea kettle or a medical pump. And they looked at how mothers washed their babies, how phone calls were handled in a business, how doctors examined a patient's ears, how African villagers carried water from a well, how people board a plane. There was simply no limit to where their creativity could be applied. And their focus was on solving problems, wherever they might crop up. I have no idea how they knew to do all of these varied things. Apparently, they just figured it out as they went. They were creative. So I discovered that being creative didn't mean having a particular set of specialized skills like selecting a font or writing copy. It was a way of looking at the world, of being curious, a way of living and of being. And that discovery, that epiphany really, it led me to step off this ladder altogether and to begin to lead the life that I now lead. I left advertising. I started Sketchbook School. I started this channel. I wrote a lot of books. I taught courses. I wrote essays. And I discovered that I could apply my mind and my creativity to solving all kinds of problems and exploring all kinds of skills. And that made my life a lot more fun and interesting and rewarding than it had ever been when creative was mainly just my title. If this story sounds at all familiar to you, if you think about the same things that I did for all those years, well, here's a thought. What if starting today, your job was just to be creative, no matter what industry you're in? No matter what your business card says, you work in an accounting firm, but you're creative. Your boss thinks of you as a biology teacher, but you know your job is creative. You work in the design department of a bank, but you're no banker. Tinker, tailor, candlestick maker, they can call you what they will, but you are creative. You are a creative problem solver. First and foremost. What would that look like? Let's take it a step further. What if creative became your full-time job, 24/7? What if you devoted a certain amount of time every day to come up with ideas to improve some aspect of your life? Could you be more creative as a parent or as a spouse? Could you be more creative as a cook or as a neighbor or as a resident of this planet? Could you walk your dog more creatively? Could you look after your health more creatively? Could you be more creative in planning what you'll do today and for the rest of your days? What would that feel like? how would you start?